Hey everybody, Ryan FMG here. Today we're going to try out something different. For the past couple weeks now, because, quarantine, social distancing, just going outside a lot less, I've been having a lot more time on my hands. So the last couple weeks, I've been actually watching more fighting game content as well as playing more fighting games, specifically Street Fighter V. And I think it's really fun to see the different videos and streams that fighting game people do compared to Teppen or card games. Specifically, Sajam does what's called match analysis. And basically, he takes previous footage from a local tournament or big tournament or online tournament, most are online right now, and he commentates it, right? So it's great because it's pre-recorded, so he can pause it, he can fast forward it, he can rewind it, and he talks about it. Now, obviously, I'm not Sajam because Sajam is ridiculously great, and I'm, well, just not Sajam for sure. But I thought maybe it could be kind of fun to do something a little bit close to that. Unfortunately, we do not have, as Teppen players, tons of online events or in-person events or these big events to do commentating for or match analysis of any kind. However, we do have what's called the Teppen channel, and I'll freely admit, I don't really utilize the Teppen channel that much. I don't pay attention to it that much. I know it's there, every once in a while I look at it, but I want to start looking at it more. Basically, the Teppen channel, every day, I believe it's every day, there's 5 games that are shown there. And what's really cool is you can watch the game, you can pause it, fast forward it. It's just like a pre-recording, kind of like your past replays in the other tab, right? And what's awesome is you can watch it from either side as well as you can see the deck list. So what I want to do today is I'm going to pick one match or one game and we'll look at the deck list of both players and then we'll watch the game, right? We'll pause it, we'll talk about it, and we'll see how it goes. First, let's talk about Jill. So this player is playing Jill Antibody Activation, which has been seen more and more play. It's a pretty good deck. The first thing that pops out to me is I really like Bullet in this type of list, because Bullet says return a friendly red unit back to the EX pocket, then deal 5 damage split among enemy units. And this is pretty good value, especially since you have so many value cards like Claire or Hellbat that you kind of want to bounce back to your hand, or EX pocket in this case, so you can replay it and get the detonation or the deal 6 damage effect. So overall, maybe I would play a couple more bullets, and I probably wouldn't be playing these headshots just because usually I don't feel like antibody activation needs the reach. However, we'll kind of see. Maybe the headshot will win the game. So I could see maybe that be the first little change that I would make, but I'm really interested to see how headshot really plays in Jill antibody activation. The other player is playing Nero, Hey Nico, which this is why I'm kind of picking this matchup, because Jill and Nero are played heroes, but definitely not the most played heroes. And this looks pretty good, right? You have a lot of the MP ramp units, and then this high threshold of these great legendaries like Heavenly Kicks Chun-Li and Karen and the Dragon, and then of course some Rainies, because Rainy even is seeing less play, but still is this big beefy boy. The one thing though that I think is interesting is they're playing a lot of one-ofs, right? Like one wall jump, one disarm, one evasion action, one disarm, stuff like that. And they are playing a lot of defensive stance. In my mind, I usually play more wall jumps, and then if I want more 1 MP action spells, then maybe I play a stance or something like that. And so this player is kind of doing the opposite. So it'll be kind of interesting to see that maybe stance is way better than I've been evaluating it, especially if, the Jill player goes for a headshot and then you have a stance. That seems really cool. Okay, we're going to be watching it from the Jill side. So, they're deciding on mulligans. This hand could be a keep. You have Hellbat, Guile. They mulligan. They still have a Hellbat, so that's awesome because Hellbat is very, very good. What's great is with these replays, you can actually press on these cards. So if you don't know a card, you can press on it. And obviously the Jill player and the Nero player just kind of wait around to get more MP. Now it's great that, so they got to explore twice. Now it's kind of a little unfortunate that they got Claire second, where they couldn't drop a Claire then a Hellbat, but that's kind of fine. So it's kind of interesting here, and I'm going to pause it because the Nero player seems like they're fishing, right? We can't see what's in their hands, but it seems like they're fishing because they played their Iris, and now they're playing a stance, just kind of, almost in my mind, it's just playing the stance to quickly draw a card so they hopefully get a layer or an Iris or something like that. And then, of course, with free MP, you might as well, shield up your Hellbat or something like that. Especially to get stuff out of the EX pocket, so that you can do these Awakenings. Which now you can do Awakening on the Hellbat to get another detonation, so you have 2 detonations. So that was kind of a suboptimal line from the Jill player, not using Awaken on the Hellbat. You could have gotten blown out because, they could... the Nero player could silence the Hellbat in response or something like that. Now, Nero could, like I said, use a disarm effect, which they are, but you can now just do another Awaken to still try to get that detonation. So now we have a cheap detonation in the EX pocket, which feels really good for the Jill player. This is great because now even if they use a wall jump on the Iris, you have another detonation. But as we know, the Nero player actually has only played 1 wall jump, which is wall jump's great against detonation and other damage dealing effects. Using evasion action on the Hellbat seems fine, right? Just to kind of counteract the antibody activation from Jill. Do they have the 1 wall jump? If not, this is going to go very much into Jill's favor, right? Okay, that's kind of fine, losing the 2-1. That's a good trade for the Jill player. Unfortunately, right here, all of the Explorer cards are death triggers, right? Where you kind of want to be played, like, it would be great to have another, like, Hellbat or one played Explore. A-Trans. Kind of seems like they're fishing a little bit more because you would rather be playing an MP ramp unit, but they obviously drew one, which is great. A-Trans plus Hey Nico is a great combination right here. Kind of just waiting, the Jill player could just do Dragon Lord's Judgment, but that's just killing a shield, so that definitely does not feel that good. Now, it kind of stinks because you really wanted the Carlos to hit the Alair so that you could do Judgment. But hopefully Judgment kills the Chun-Li. That would be fantastic for the Jill opponent. And it does not. That RNG did not go Jill's way. But it still did a lot of damage to Chun-Li, and it did get the shield away from the layer. So, not terrible, but it was still 5 MP. But having these 2 Claires in hand is great, because now you could just do Claire in the top and bottom row, kill both. Okay, a little bit interesting. That was a little bit fast, so I'm going to pause it right there. So the Jill player decided to play the MP ramp Claire in the top row to try to eat the Heavenly Kicks Chun-Li, since, Claire would eat the RA damage Chun-Li rather than use the Claire that deals damage, which is actually a pretty good play, and I don't mind that at all. I think that's good. However, before that could happen, the Nero player ascended Rainy over the Chun-Li, so that was actually really good for the Nero player, right? Because now you just have this 2-7 against this 4-10, and we know what's going to win that battle. It's Rainy. So it forces the Jill player to use their antibody activation. Which Rainy, 9 damage to Rainy is like, Rainy could take that. And this is where wall jump is great, right? Wall jump just completely counteracted that 9 damage and was just like, okay, fine, you just take a shield away, I still have this 410 body. Wall jump is fantastic. Yeah, definitely halting the Rainy, because a 410 with spillover will do a lot of damage. And these halts from Nero have been doing a pretty good job of kind of nerfing the pressure and letting them ramp into, layer and gaining more MP advantage that way. So definitely Hey Nico's been doing, quite some good work here. So now The Jill player is not, I'll pause it right here. The Jill player has a max of 10 MP. They should be shooting off Agent's memory, especially that the memory count is 9, because every single second or split second that you are not netting MP, your opponent probably still is. So especially that you have an action, you definitely want to be playing that action. Just kill the Rainy or do 7 to your opponent, something like that. You always kind of want to, you feel like you want to hold on to those cards to play the most optimal all the time, but right now this just kind of stinks. And, then we're getting a Claire down, which is pretty good. You could use a headshot or Agent's memory. Ooh, that's pretty good, actually, because now we can do Bullet. Yeah, and this is why I kind of like Bullet in this matchup, because you do Bullet, you get back the Claire, it's kind of just this great value train engine. This has been a pretty good back and forth, right? The Jill player just, playing some 2-5 bodies because they're great, because you kind of want them to die. They're going to chip in for some damage, and especially when it's 30-19 life total, you definitely want to just, 2 hits adds up quite fast. Especially because, the pressure is just that. Where you could be tempted to do Agent's Memory to kill the feline. However, I kind of like what this Jill player is doing of really holding on to that Agent's Memory because it can just deal 7 to the face. However, shielding, with the stance could really blow that out. Jill deciding to do the headshot, which makes sense because, worst comes to worst, Agent's Memory, or not even worst comes to worst, Agent's Memory can still just do damage and kill a creature. That's where the stance kind of nullifies the headshot, kind of like what I was talking about while we were looking at the deck lists, which is pretty good, right? Basically a counterspell for some burn to the face, keeping the life total higher than 7. Pause it right there because I just thought about it, and when the Jill player played the headshot over the Agent's Memory, I was like, oh, that's good to play because the Agent's Memory, you can wait to kill a unit if you have to, but Natural Cycle was on the stack, so therefore your hand is going to get shuffled back in, so probably playing Agent's Memory was probably more efficient because even if it got countered, which it did evidently get countered, it's still going to go back, and both plays are still 2 MP. And this is kind of why I like looking at matches like this where you can pause it, because I had the same thought process as the Jill player, probably, I'm not sure what the Jill player is thinking, but it seems like I had the same process as them, but that thinking process was not necessarily correct.
All preparations complete.
Trying to get another detonation, which it's great because the Natural Cycle, if you see, it's like, wait, how is there a detonation in hand of the Jill opponent? It's like, oh, because the Natural Cycle shuffled all those detonations, all those halt spells and stuff like that into the deck, which is actually pretty darn good for Jill. So yes, Natural Cycle does buff the Nero's stuff, but, we got more detonations. Detonation, Nero can wall jump to kind of counter this. Shattered Horn isn't going to do that much here. It's going to do 5 damage, which it will kill the Guile, but that's fine. Jill will just get another detonation. Yeah, and these halts are great because Nero was just about to take 5 damage. Oh, that wasn't halt, sorry, that was damage, yeah. That just cleaned it up right there. And Jill, it seems like the Jill players wait for Nero to play something so that they can play the Claire. However, they could just be playing the Carlos, and kind of like what I said before, is every time you're not gaining any MP, that's a pretty big disadvantage. And, there's still like a minute and a half on the clock, so you're not really waiting to time out the opponent because, yeah, it's 30 to 8, but why don't you just play a Carlos to start getting 3 damage in? And obviously none of their action spells are doing anything right now. But now they can just be throwing these Clairs around to kill the little jobber dinosaurs.
Now it's time. You're finished. Give up already.
Dropping another Claire seems good. Okay.
All preparations complete.
Yeah, that's really good, because you don't want that to hit and then bounce something to the deck. You kind of want to keep the pressure going. Minute left on the clock, but definitely Jill is in the lead by far with the life total. And probably could close this game out. They just need 8 more points of damage. Yeah, might as well just clear the board of everything. That was very fast reflex. Oh, I thought they were going for the Chun-Li. Okay. Even though there's only one wall jump, they are playing a playset of Blade Shattering Defense, which is just more shields, which is very good for them, obviously.
You're up, Nico.
This 3-4 body can do a lot of work on the Heavenly Kicks Chun-Li. However, there's detonations and stuff like that to kind of counteract that. Playing a Hellbat in that lane and then maybe antibody activation seems great. That's what the Jill player does.
I can't let it end here.
Especially because they still have another activation on deck after the cooldown.
There's no point.
So wall jump or Blade Shatter Defense, yet again, just shield of any variety showing the true power against detonations and other effects like that.
All preparations complete.
It seems very smart from the Jill player to just try to keep this Hellbat around, pump it up, because right now the only threat and the really only win con of this Nero player is Chun-Li, which is getting really, really big right now. Unfortunately, they probably would like a little bit more attack and a little bit less of that offense, but that state of nothingness really, it's a 26-4. That's kind of ridiculous. That's a big Hellbat. Unfortunately, that stance really needs to block that Hellbat. And it definitely... Jill seems like she could close out this game very fast. And even if not, yet again, there's only 17 seconds on the clock. Nero's not going to be able to do more than 15 damage in that time. This was a pretty cool game overall. Very back and forth. Some good plays by both of the opponents. Lots of halts from the Nero player. Because of the natural cycle cycling everything back into both opponents' decks, they definitely got their detonations and ragtimes and stuff like that a lot more than you usually see in a stereotypical match. Which also evidently leads the game to be much more grindy, kind of going to time, because no opponent's decking right now, right? Get that last one activation of Hey Nico, might as well. The last antibody activation with 1 second on the clock, might as well. Why take 2 damage, or why have your Claire die? Win goes to Jill. Overall, that was a pretty cool, I want to say back and forth, but definitely grindy, and I'm not really sure if it was that much back and forth, because from the get-go, it seemed like Jill was favored, but man, did that Nero player really put up a fight and stall Jill's game plan, even though it didn't seem like the Nero player was ever that far ahead or necessarily winning. It always seems like they were kind of far behind, but they had shields when the Jill player had the detonations, and those shields always come in so clutch. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you all for watching, and let me know how you like these types of videos, because I kind of enjoy this and I kind of want to do more of this. It's kind of fun to use my brain in a different way, as well, just to do something a little bit different, spice things up, especially since unfortunately it doesn't look like we're getting any balance updates or new cards for a while, so trying out some new different things could be good. So let me know in the comments how you like this, and I'll see you all next time.